Welcome to my video. My name is Laura Cunningham. I am a graduate student at Liberty University. This is my presentation on interpersonal communication. My overarching goal is to enlarge my conversations by becoming the most effective listener that I possibly can, by becoming aware of my own communication skills, practicing empathetic listening, and by using the various methods I have learned in this course. What is communication? John Stewart defines communication as the continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. He identified 6 important concepts of communication. Humans make meaning together. Communication involves choices, it's affected by culture, and it involves creating identities. Conversations are the most significant events of communication. Nexting is thinking of what we can help to happen next. Nexting was a term that I had never heard of before. Stewart refers to nexting as the single most important skill in communication. Nexting is when we ask ourselves in the midst of a conversation a very important question. We ask, what can we do next that's going to help this situation? Because there's always something that can be done next. What is interpersonal communication? Interpersonal communication is the type or kind of communication that happens when people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Behavioral blends. Mel Carbonell is the author of How to Solve the People Puzzle. He compares people to the pieces of a puzzle. We're all different sizes, different shapes, we act different, we feel differently, all like pieces of a puzzle. By understanding different personality types, we can start to fit these pieces of the puzzle together. He suggests there are 4 personality types. By having an awareness of all 4 types, we're better able to understand why a person may feel or act the way they do. And this can help us begin to solve the people puzzle. Graph 1 is what we perceive others expect of us, and graph 2 is the real me, the unguarded me. My graph 1 says that I am an S-type. S-types are typically passive and people-oriented. We are seen as being steady, humble, friendly, loyal, submissive, and stable. Graph 2, this is the real me. This is in my comfort zone, my unguarded self. I am an SCI, high S. This personality type is passion is helping others. I'm quiet and cautious, sweet and soft, dependable, easygoing, laid back, loyal, and faithful. The influences of my blend suggest that I need to be on guard against or careful about not letting problems build up inside to the point of explosion, which I am guilty of, being taken advantage of, not taking enough risks, getting out of the box or my comfort zone, possibly not being assertive enough, and coming across as weak or unsure of myself. Communication involves listening. Are you a good listener? Honestly, I always thought that I was a great listener until I've learned so much in this course, and I'm nowhere near the listener that I hope to be. Listening is not just simply hearing. God gave us 2 ears, but only 1 mouth. Some people say that's because He wanted us to spend twice as much time listening as we do talking. Others claim it's because He knew listening was twice as hard. Author unknown. I think it's both. Listening is a learned behavior. It promotes cooperation by assuming the other person has value and worth. It can reduce tension and stress. It requires energy and discipline. Listening must be practiced. Effective listening is active, not passive. So talking about active listening, be attentive, interested, and empathetic. Avoid being critical or judgmental. We learn more when we listen, and we spend more time listening than we do reading and writing combined. Don't interrupt with a statement or question, and try to avoid the Y word. It implies criticism. There are 3 levels of listening. Empathetic listening, hearing words but not really listening, and level 3 is listening in spurts. The goal is to be listening at level 1 all the time. In the new Social Worker Journal magazine, Sharon Lakey talks about empathetic listening. Everything starts with empathy. The relationship is built on empathy. Nonverbal communication, is it really important? Body language is a part of nonverbal communication. Body language can detract from our verbal statements. It can enhance our conversations. It can help communicate our messages. And first impressions are many times formed from our body language. Body language is indeed a very powerful piece of communication. These are some examples of negative body language. I don't believe that any of these are approachable, or I would not feel that any of these were listening to me if I was carrying on a conversation. Communication traps, barriers, and roadblocks. We're going to talk about some of these. External distractions. This could be anything from the temperature in the room is uncomfortable. The chair that you're sitting in is uncomfortable. A phone is ringing in the background. It's pouring down rain outside and you're staring at the window. Perry Masons are like a police officer questioning you for a crime. Where were you on the night of September 2nd, 2003? It immediately can put someone on the defensive, as well as the next roadblock, using the why. Why questions also, they have an accusatory tone and they can immediately put people on the defense. The I understand phrase, we need to be mindful when we use it, because if you've not walked in that person's shoes, you're going to kill the conversation by saying, I understand. We lost a 19-year-old son in a car accident. And if someone had come up to me during that time and said, I understand exactly what you're going through, and I knew that they had never lost a child or dealt with the death of a child, conversation's dead. I'm done. We just need to be very careful. Social media, even though it's part of external distractions, I felt like it's prevalent enough in our society today that it deserved its own box. Maura Kelly in Social Work Today magazine talks about the distractions of social media and the effect they have on interpersonal communication. People would rather text than talk now. How many times have you been to a restaurant and you look at the table next to you and there's 4 people sitting there and they all have their cell phones out? They're checking their emails, they're checking their text messages, they're on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. Using the not phrase. Using the not phrase we need to be careful about, because not questions are really statements, and the outcome is typically going to produce negative responses. Yes, but is the same way. It sounds like we're agreeing, but when you have the but, just don't use yes, but. And the flat brain theory is something that we're all guilty of. It's when our emotions are too high, our hearing's distorted, we can't see straight, we don't think straight, we say things that we're going to regret. Everybody recovers usually from flat brain syndrome, but the conversations aren't going to have a good outcome. Emotion levels are too high. My plan of action for my own interpersonal communication is to have an awareness of what I need to improve on, an awareness of the things that I am doing well. I need to practice. Practice makes perfect. Improve focus and concentration. Resist any external distractions. Be attentive and interested. Remain non-judgmental, non-critical, and practice nexting. I'm going to close the presentation with 2 pictures. The power of words can move you to tears. It can evoke absolute joy or lead you in action. There are words of encouragement, of sympathy, of love and admiration. The right words can give you strength, define your faith, give flight to things that live in your imagination. Words can inspire you, cut you, bring you back to life. They will comfort you in your time of need. Words will nourish your soul. And words can hurt. Words can heal. The choice is yours. The choice is ours. Thank you very much. Because there's always something that can happen next.